Welcome to the Rush to Resolution podcast, the show for startups looking to transform their customer experience. Whether you're a founder unsure where to begin or a customer support professional searching for some fresh solutions, you're in the right place. Each short episode is packed with actionable insights to help you address challenges and implement changes this week. You can catch the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or at rushtoresolution.com. All right, let's get started. This is the first episode in a series called It Takes a Team, and today I'm going to share a story about being part of the early stages of customer experience development while the product and user base were rapidly growing. Then I'm going to cover 3 focus points to help you predict future inbound conversations and also hiring in the right locations. The 3 main areas that we're going to focus on today are setting up the volume forecasting model, developing a plan to reduce conversations, and hiring in the right locations. So this series will be more of a visual experience. So if you're listening to the podcast on the train, in your car, on a walk, you can always go to rushtoresolution.com/blog to see what I'm showing. So I want to share a story about building support from the ground up. And I think this is going to resonate with some people starting in a new role in customer support or with startup founders looking to develop their customer support department. So when I was hired as the first person in customer support at Frame.io, I was excited and ready to build something incredible. I was eager to learn about the product and help customers. But on my first day as head of support, I opened my new laptop and staring back at me was 10,000 unanswered conversations. Yes, 10,000 unanswered conversations. So some of these conversations were even over a year old. It was 9:30 in the morning, just started 30 minutes prior, and I was already overwhelmed. I was like, what do I do? How do I start? So my first question to the CEO was, how many customers do we have? He said, 75,000. 75,000. And who's been managing customer support so far? He said, me and the CTO. The 2 of them have been answering customers whenever they could get to it, as often as they could. And I was the first hire in customer support. So I had to make impactful decisions and fast. My first day was also the launch day of a new integration with Adobe Premiere. And this was a workflow changing integration. It was such an amazing product, but we didn't have any tutorial videos or articles that explained how the integration worked. So the queue was increasing by 100 conversations per hour. Could you imagine that? We were already at 10,000 in the queue and we were compounding 100 per hour. And I am now the only support person in the queue alongside the CEO and CTO. So that was a big change, a big adjustment to learn how to deal with that. But whenever I got down to it, we got through that queue that day. The first thing that I realized about the conversations was data wasn't being collected about why customers were contacting us. I needed to identify the top 10 reasons customers needed support. So I set up a tagging system. We're talking 2016. It was manual, but every new conversation was tagged so that I could start to quantify all inbound conversations and start creating solutions. Second, customers didn't have a foundational way to learn how to use the product. Like I said, we had 100 customers per hour coming into the queue because we had no way to show them how to use the product. So I wrote support articles and developed webinars where customers could ask questions directly. I authored 120 support articles that first month and then created 2 weekly webinars. And with that, it completely changed how support was being done. Third, I spot checked many of the conversations in the backlog, that backlog of 10,000, and I found that engineering updates had already addressed them, but I couldn't respond by myself with a custom reply to every single one of those 10,000. So I decided to mass message everyone, letting them know that we're going to close that conversation, but reach out again if you are still having that issue. So I closed 10 months worth of conversations and focused on responding to the 2 most recent months. So during that time, there was a lot to answer. During the day, I was managing the inbound queue, and at night, I was tackling that backlog and trying to answer those last 2 months there. In the first 30 days, that backlog was under control, and support inquiries were already reduced by 90%. And I was managing all inbound conversations by myself while the user base was rapidly increasing. And it increased from 75,000 when I started to 150,000 in just 6 months. After just 1 year, The user base grew to 250,000 users in 180 countries, and my day looked very different. By 6 a.m., I'm up, eating breakfast, answering customers on my phone. And then whenever I got on the train, I'm in New York. Whenever I got on the train, I was writing those detailed responses that I knew that were going to take a long time to answer. And then once I got above ground, I sent them once I had a signal. At 7 to 8 a.m., I was at my desk clearing the backlog from the European customers that had come in overnight. And then 11 a.m., I'm hosting my first webinar of the day for the European and those early US customers. By noon, I'm having a short lunch, usually at my desk. 12:30 to 3, I'm clearing the backlog that built up during the webinar and lunch. From 4 to 5, I was sitting with the CTO to tackle bugs and then responding to that bug backlog. 6 p.m., I headed home, but then from 8 to 10 p.m., I was answering the West Coast and early morning Asia customers. 250,000 users makes a big difference whenever you're the only person in support, right? So I calculated that the conversations weighing on my day were primarily from European, Australian, and Asian time zones. And honestly, they deserve faster responses than somebody on the East Coast. So I had to decide whether to hire in London, where most of our customers in the UK were, or and the salaries were comparable to New York. Or could we hire in Dublin, where we would get a tax break after hiring about 5 team members, and also salaries were a little bit lower, where we could build the team. And also there's other software companies in Dublin. So I was thinking maybe I could pull customer support representatives from those other softwares. Shortly after hiring in Dublin, I hired somebody to work alongside me in New York and expanded to Los Angeles and continued to build the team in those 3 cities. Before hiring these folks, I had to show the future trajectory of inbound support and the efforts I would take to reduce support to our leadership. So right now we're talking about forecasting inbound conversations. You don't want to wait until you and your team are underwater with customer conversations, because it's critical to have time to define and refine operational processes for effective customer communication and the health and the growth of your employees too. A customer-centric company that focuses on retaining and delighting customers will see that value in developing a CX team. First, I'll tell you how to develop a forecasting model. This is essential as you expand your team globally. You're going to start by pulling the average number of conversations per week. How has this changed week over week, month over month, year over year? You'll start to see a trend whenever you're looking at total number of conversations per week. And if you can pull the annual numbers, what's the annual percentage increase in conversations? Again, week over week, month over month, year over year. And you'll be able to make educated guesses on where you could go from there whenever you're just looking at week over week. So this is the simple, basic, here's how you get started with just looking at what a forecasting model would look like. Then we take it to another level. Second, you're going to track the time of day that conversations come in. So we're not just looking at total number of conversations for the week. We're going to look at what time of day they come in. And optimally, you would look at what day is heaviest. Is Tuesday a heavy day? Is that whenever social media puts out all their posts? What makes the biggest day? When is the biggest time that your customers, your niche users, are contacting you for customer support? So you want to analyze those trends week over week, month over month, year over year, finding those heaviest days, heaviest hours in which your customers contact you. And if you can get this on a chart, you'll be able to see where you need to start hiring and what gaps you need to fill whenever it comes to those time zones. Third, you want to collaborate with product, marketing, and sales to understand their upcoming efforts. Where will increased efforts be this upcoming year? What major milestones are launching? Is sales going to be expanding outside of the US starting this year? Is marketing targeting a specific region? This information is crucial whenever you think about how you're going to be expanding your team. If your sales team is going to be expanding to EMEA, you probably need to bring support over into EMEA as well. By aligning with other departments, you can better predict where your customer base will grow and also the estimated number of inbound conversations that'll come in. Okay, so now we have a forecasting model in place. You have a sense of future conversation volumes. Chances are you won't have the budget to hire the estimated number of people that you need to manage that predicted volume. So we need to develop a plan to reduce conversations. So I have 3 suggestions to reduce conversations that might spark other ideas. Every company is going to be different, but these are 3 things you could think about while you're considering how to reduce conversations. First, you want to solve for the top 5 issues that customers report. Likely, this will take more than just updating your knowledge base. If it was that simple, just updating, writing some articles, great, that'd be awesome. But data speaks volumes, so collect information about time that it takes to answer each one and potential cost of churn without making changes for these issues. If you review these potential solutions with engineering to understand the effort, then partner with product design and engineering to address these issues. Second, I would suggest deploying an AI chatbot for those informational inquiries. So analyze your data again, and you want to predict how many conversations AI can resolve versus those conversations that require human action. I used to have a tag called confusion and another tag called unaware. Confused how a feature works and unaware that a feature even existed. I'd say this was a little bit more difficult for somebody to manually tag to understand the context of what the customer was relaying. But a lot of times it was confused. Limited times it was unaware. But even so, having these tags was useful to develop the knowledge base with the proper direction, especially if the customer was not even aware a feature even existed. And also that information, send that back to product. They would love to know that customers didn't know how to use that feature or even that feature even existed. This kind of information is perfect for the voice of the customer company-wide report. And third, I would suggest addressing complex issues by creating brief tutorial videos. So many times I had a support article that explained it all, but we still got the inbound support on this complex situation. So I just recorded a quick video, 20-second video, uploaded it to the support article, and it actually solved quite a bit. We also uploaded it to the macro, and whenever we answered customers, it was automatically in the macro so that they could see exactly how to answer it. Many customers would rather watch a visual rather than read and try to piece it all together how it would work for them. Make sure that customers can pause or rewind videos. I once used a 20-second looping GIF, and customers found it frustrating to wait for that loop to restart so they could watch right at that very specific part that they said, I can't figure out how to do this, and I had to wait another 20 seconds. So I'm like, oh yeah, I probably should not use an animated GIF. Use something that they could pause, shuttle back, and then keep playing it from there. Okay, so you've done the research and you know exactly how you want to reduce support, but the question is, you're gonna have to ask yourself, like, who's gonna build these solutions? Is it gonna be an existing team member? Are you going to hire somebody specifically for it? Are you going to bring in a third party to do it? And then also, what's the estimated impact of these efforts? Add that calculated reduction to your volume forecast model. So if you have identified this will reduce this particular topic by 20%, that particular topic, how much was that in the overall scope of things? Can you even estimate how many times that topic was asked throughout the week? Each time of the week? Was it a very specific to a time zone or to a country that topic was handling? Try to add that into your reduction, and then and you'll be able to see a better prediction model here. Finally, align with company leadership to hire in the right locations. At Frame.io, I knew from day one that we needed a dispersed team. The product's global appeal meant that rapid user growth was going to happen across countries. If a goal for your company is to provide 24/7 support, providing tight SLAs for global enterprise customers, or sales expects to expand globally, it's imperative that you align with the company leadership on expansion locations too. If your company is remote, team camaraderie can still thrive through local dinners and events. It's cost-effective to build culture where teammates are in proximity. Even in remote-first companies, local gatherings foster strong connections. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of It Takes a Team. Forecasting your support needs, reducing conversations, and hiring strategically are essential steps to building a thriving global CX team. Whether you're just starting in a leadership role or you're scaling a growing startup, remember that every decision you make contributes to the foundation of your team's success. My goal with this podcast is to give you a starting point for improving your customer experience. Subscribe with your favorite platform so new ideas can be cultivated in just a few minutes. Rush to Resolution is a CX implementation and consulting company. Visit rushtoresolution.com to see how we can help. Have a great day and a productive week. Bye, everyone.